This is your host, Laura Winters, the heart-led pathfinder, intuitive energy healer, speech-language pathologist, and owner of Your Light Holistic Therapy and Wellness, LLC. Welcome to Miracle in Time, a mini-series podcast that brings you the stories of beautiful humans exploring the synchronicities, blessings, and miracles within our perception of time. It illustrates that events are not just happening to us, but for us. Life isn't always rainbows and butterflies, but it is a miracle in time. I am so excited to be able to offer a low-cost healing option for moms out there that are overcome by guilt from medical decisions. I am healing the guilt from making medical decisions early on in my children's life that I honestly didn't know any better. As a result, they have chronic illness, and I am often reminded that they have their own journeys too. Love is how we heal our guilt, and we don't have to do it alone. Join us in Healing Medical Mom Guilt. You can register on the website at yourlightllc.com/scheduling. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Miracle in Time. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the backstory leading to our first theme. So this all started in 2022 when my middle son had been coughing and throat clearing a lot, and it had gone on for 6 months, 9 months, a year, and we could not really find the problem and the reason for it. So in September, my oldest son had turned 7, I believe, and we were down in the basement, and the throat clearing and the coughing was relentless. I mean, it was non-stop. After it was done, I kind of did some looking around, and I had remembered opening the cupboard door of our little kitchenette, and I had this kind of was hit by a mold smell. And I'd remember seeing, I don't know, months before, a little bit of water bubbling from the paint on the ground, but I couldn't find anything anywhere. So I just assumed that someone had spilled water and then it did this and then dried. So when I had smelled that, I told my husband, I had said, there's something down here. You have to find it. There's something that's triggering him. You have to find it. And so he was pretty upset, but he went and he pulled all of that apart and found a ton of black mold. And me being now a year and a half, almost 2 years into my healing journey, I had known that mold is a big irritant, especially black mold. And it's not well recognized in the Western medicine community as being something that can severely impact your health. So with some of this knowledge that I already knew about black mold, I went into full flight or fight. I mean, full on horrible anxiety. And so he ripped out everything. And in hindsight, not the best way to do it. But either way, it got out of there. And what we found was that the part that was attached to, the tubing for the faucet or whatever, it was dripping there once every 2 minutes. So it was a very small leak that led to a really huge problem. That became a really huge problem for my son. And so after he took everything out, my son and I, the middle one, got really sick. Flu-like symptoms, fever, chills, could not get out of bed. And I remember my ears hurting as well. And so I knew that him and I were sensitive to black mold then. Nobody else got sick. Everybody was fine. And during this time then, I kind of like got on Instagram even more about this mold-related illness, and I came across this account of someone who just was talking about holistic health in general, and I may have been following her before, but I just kind of remember it around that time. And so as we're trying to, get all this stuff cleaned out of the house, trying to like think about our health in general and detoxing from mold, I had learned more information that was important for my journey. So through this Instagram account, I started learning about something called CFT, craniosacral fascial therapy. And she would post things, videos of her doing it on her children and how it's been really helpful for her husband and herself. And then this idea of tongue ties and lip ties and the impact that has, for children and for adults. My first one had difficulty nursing. He required a nipple shield from the start, and then it took about a month for us to be able to wean that off with some help. And then my middle one, because I was equipped with a lot of knowledge, he nursed totally fine. But then when he started solids, he started coughing and clearly having some difficulty then. But me being an adult speech therapist was like, well, he's not aspirating. He'll be fine. He'll get over it. And then my third one, when she was little, she had a lot of clicking when she was nursing, was nursed fine, gained weight, all of that. But you could tell she just had some difficulty. And so when I learned this information about tongue ties, I was like, wait a second, what's going on here? Like pieces started to come together. And around that time as well is when I started getting into energy healing a little bit more. So when I had that incident with my eye and this kind of like almost immediate release of pain, I started getting into, learning about energy and energy work and healing. Kind of had started dabbling in some things with a group of healers, like getting services from them for health-related conditions and things like that. And so that's kind of where my Reiki journey began as well. So all of these pieces were like kind of starting to come together. And so yeah, I'm kind of in it. I'm learning about CFT. I'm learning about tongue ties. And now I know that there's something that I need to do about it. So I think it was around, the end of 2022 that I reached out to somebody to do an evaluation for the tongue ties, the orofacial myofunctional disorders. And so we started talking about that, and I started learning a little bit more because as a speech therapist, this is an avenue, this is an area of the therapy that we can do, which I had no idea even existed. So in that as well, I just knew that there was something more. And so it was probably December where this Instagram account had put out that there are trainings for CFT. And I was like, wait a second, this might be something that's super valuable. So I looked into it, and it was like this immediate, like, I've never experienced this before. I've only seen something online, but I know that I need to do this. And so it was, at the time, the most expensive thing that I have ever purchased before for myself and like my learning. And so I came to my husband and said, I know that I just have to do this. I know I need to. And registration was coming open January of 23 for training in October of that year in Michigan, which is not too far. It was like 4 hours away. So I knew I couldn't spend extra money on flying somewhere to get this done. Something super close is like, I can drive there, I can make this work. And so when registration opened in January, I signed up right away. Like within the first minute of it opening, I was like, I'm doing this. And so then that was done. And then I needed to wait 10 months for that to happen. So in the meantime, it was, I believe, March of that year when I did my first Reiki 1 and 2 training. So I went to a place, learned about Reiki, was attuned to Reiki 1, and then that first month, I practiced every single day. And it was really interesting being able to like work with energy, like feeling things different. After an attunement, it opens you up to this ability to be able to sense energy, feel energy, hear, all of these things. And so I used the next month to practice. And then at that first Reiki training, I'd signed up for the second one. And then I did that second one the next month and kind of continued that. Also around that time, I set up that evaluation for me, my 2 sons, and my daughter to be evaluated for orofacial myofunctional disorders. And so she did this whole evaluation of our mouth, our palate, the function of our tongue. And it was really interesting because I realized that I had a ton of problems as well. There were things that she's like, can you do this? Nope. I can't do that. Can you do this? Nope. And looking at my kids like, oh Lord, we're kind of a mess here. And so she had said for my daughter kind of on this like teetering of, yes, she has a tongue tie. Do we need to get it released? I'm not quite sure. And I think at that time she was about 18 months, which knowing what I do now is, and then she had also said, it's kind of not the greatest time to be pursuing this, but if this is a problem, then we probably should do it. So I set up an appointment with a release provider, got more information, and I realized I just couldn't do this. I still was in this like mold fight or flight because that didn't go away for a long time. And so the thought of inflicting pain on my daughter for what benefits, I couldn't even fully comprehend that. I was like, I just can't do this. I'm not in the mental space for it. I can't. And so with the information I learned from my sons, we found a provider in town that does something called Healthy Start, which is essentially kind of a mouth guard that promotes tongue to palate, which is really important. Your tongue should be on the palate, and nasal breathing, especially at night. Now, at this point, they had been longtime snorers. One was showing signs of apnea and bedwetting, which is also a sign of OMDs or orofacial myofunctional disorders. And so this Healthy Start was kind of the first step of trying to remedy this. And what I learned quickly was that if they don't have nasal patency, which is opening of the nasal passages, then it's not going to work. They've got this big thing in their mouth and they can't breathe. So we would try it at night for just a little bit and they'd be like, Mom, I can't breathe. And so that's something really important to consider in this as well, is like allergies. You know, we had just been coming out of mold. Like, of course, there's going to be allergies. Of course, their airway is going to be impacted. And my oldest is like, has this extreme fear of things going up his nose. So it is just a struggle for that to happen. And so thinking about being able to clear out the nasal passages and even with saline, just not going to happen. So things were kind of a mess, still not feeling like I was out of fight or flight yet, just not having any idea of what's going on. And so eventually we get down to October, and in October, there's some crazy things that happened at the beginning of the month, which we'll talk about another time. But then the training happened in the middle of the month. And I had a speech therapy friend going as well, and then her friend who is a physical therapist, and we stayed together. And that first day of training was just like completely mind-blowing. Talking about the fascia of the body, which I wasn't even aware of, that the fascia goes through and is part of every cell of the body. And this is the part that holds on to our emotions and holds our body structure together. And the training itself was like the best vacation ever, because you're learning a little bit about the body, and then you work on your partner, and then your partner works on you. And this went on for, 7 or 8 hours the first day, and then the second day, and then the third day was like, what an amazing experience to just focus on healing yourself and healing someone else, or the other people that you're coming in contact with. And so during that time was like the energy shifted so much. I went from knowing that I wanted to start a practice in and of itself, but I didn't know what that was going to be. And I had always thought about doing that ever since I graduated. Like, I would love to own my own business someday, but I don't know what that is. And so once I was at the CFT training, I was like, this is the answer. This is the key. And being able to integrate some of that Reiki and the energy healing as well. And so it was amazing, the spiritual experiences that I had as well at CFT, that, wait a second, a lot of, we are body, but we are also spirit. And so that spirit and that soul is so integrated into our physical body. And so when there's this release of fascial tension, a lot of times there's an emotional or spiritual release as well. And so something that's really interesting is that the year and a half prior, I had been working with a psychologist who I loved, and I just needed to get things straightened out. And so I said, we're going to meet once a month, whether I'm good or bad, to get things on track. And so I did that, and eventually was like, I can't talk this out anymore. Like, I feel it in my body. I know where it is, but I don't know how to get it out. And talk therapy wasn't doing it anymore. So when CFT happened, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, literally the emotions and everything is stuck physically in the body, even though that's not something that we're really taught. And so when I had these releases in CFT, I was having these like, oh my gosh, releases of fight or flight. I was having, like I said, some spiritual experiences that were really important for me to have and learn, that we are not just this one note or two note, even thinking about just physical, just emotion. There's so much more than we can even comprehend. And that was, for me, such a beautiful experience in so many ways. And at that training was like, okay, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing in terms of my business. And my intention for CFT initially was to help me and my family. That was it. And then things transpired from there. And it has been so beautiful. And the transformation that has happened in the clients that come in is equally or even more beautiful. I mean, the stories that I hear, I'm like, wait a second. If I had had an experience like that in this short amount of time, like, I think my mind would have been blown. So I'm thankful for the journey that I've been on, but that would have been very cool to have, like, yeah, some of these experiences that I hear of people that come into my office. So CFT is amazing. And so coming back to OMDs is that we started learning about tongue ties. On the second or third day, you learned about tongue ties. And this is another thing that's like, okay, hey, Laura, you need to pay attention to this, because you learn that the fascia of the tongue is connected all the way down to your toes. And that's mind-blowing, right? That the fascia of the tongue is connected all the way down to your toes. So if we're not releasing fascia of the mouth, it's going to impact the pelvic floor. It's going to impact the legs all the way down to the feet. It literally impacts everything in your body. And so because the fascia is connected through everything, every single cell. So that was another thing, the tongue ties. Okay, the tongue ties keep coming up. And at the training, we talked about the palate structure, the tongue being on the palate and nasal breathing and the importance of that. And so when I came back, I knew that my boys needed to start palatal expansion. And so we looked for a provider, and I had been talking to some people, and so we found a provider 2 hours away, because when I had gone to local orthodontists, they did not want to touch early expansion. So that wasn't something that they did. They had to wait until certain adult teeth came through, and I knew that the longer that we wait, the harder it is for things to move. So as kids are younger, their tissues and their structure is really pliable, and so things can move nice and easy and quickly. As they get older, it's harder and harder to do. So my boys had these high palates, which the palate itself, if it's high, is going to impact the nasal airway as well. So the floor of the nose is also the roof of the mouth. So there's a lot of things that go into, improving sleep for them, because that was kind of the biggest issue. My oldest was waking up and saying, I didn't sleep hardly at all last night, just looking exhausted. I could hear them snoring from down the hall. The apnea is scary. Like, this is the part of their life where their brain is developing so much. And so if they're not getting that restorative sleep at night, then we're setting them back. And I knew I couldn't wait. So when I had presented this to my husband, okay, we're going to go 2 hours away to meet with an orthodontist to talk about early expansion. He was like, this is just, I've never heard of this. Why are we doing this? And it was a valid question. Why are we doing this? Well, hopefully, if we get things in order now, they're going to be healthier later in life. If we get the palate expansion, maybe they don't need the extensive braces as well. The teeth can come down and sit where they're supposed to. A piece of the palatal expansion is also this myofunctional therapy. And when we had met with him at the consultation, we said, hey, we're 2 hours away. Included in the package was myofunctional therapy. And our experience with online therapy for my kids is it's okay, but it's not that great. And so he said, because we were so far away, and there was one option in town. Well, and you're a speech therapist, how about we'll just take that charge off and we'll explore that when we need to. So that was really nice and really helpful for me. So throughout the journey of expansion, the orthodontist kept saying, like, hey, are you going to do some of the training? Because, you can do some of this work. And I kept being like, no, I don't. I totally don't want to do this. This is not for me. But then in the back of my mind, it's like, wait a second. You've done other trainings before. This is not completely out of your wheelhouse. You know, it might save you some money. And so when we started getting to the point where we don't have too much time left, he was like, okay, we're looking to be starting soon. So what are you going to do? And I was like, I just don't know that I can. And he was like, you can do this. Like, he was a great advocate that, like, you can totally do this. So I started looking at options, and there's a couple different ways, or, you know, there's like low level, inexpensive trainings online. There's mid-range, virtual lessons online, and there's options that are really expensive, whether they're just online or in person. And so, me being a kind of money conscious person, I was like, okay, I don't want to do the lowest level, but maybe I'll do mid-range. And so, as I was exploring this, you know, one of the things that I've learned in my energy healing training and education is kinesiology. So kinesiology is a way to test your body whether something is positive or kind of like a positive impact or negative. And so, not that it's good or bad, but if it's positive or negative, I was using my kinesiology, like in my energy testing, and it was just not coming up as the right thing. And so I decided to kind of go low cost, and I signed up for speechtherapypd.com that had some professional, like 10-hour trainings from two very prominent speech therapists in the field and who focus on myofunctional therapy. And so I had done this muscle testing, which one should I start with? And the first one was with Mary Billings. And so an hour into the training, I was bawling my eyes out because I'm learning all of these things that I feel like I should have known for my own kids and for my own health a long, long time ago. And I knew I couldn't do it online. I knew then I couldn't even get through an hour training, an hour of the 10 hours. There is no way I can do this online. And so it was really interesting because, you know, this podcast is talking about miracles, and there was a lot of them that happened along the way. But the next morning I woke up, and one of the things I see on Facebook is that in October of that year in Cincinnati, Mary Billings and Diana Davidson were doing a training for the myofunctional therapy. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally a sign. I screenshotted it, sent it to my friend and said, I think this is a sign. I think I need to do this. Any chance you want to come with me? And she was like, that is a weekend I cannot do. And I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I can totally do this. So they had said, any questions, text Diana. So I text Diana and said, hey, is there still, because this is just a month out, is there enough openings to be able to schedule? And because I needed to move some funds around. And so she was like, yes, I'll make sure that there's a spot for you. I'm like, okay, this is great. So I ended up, and she had given me a coupon code. So that was super nice for some money off. That was a miracle in and of itself. And after I registered, Diana had told me, you know, you can give that coupon code out to others. And so I did that. Nobody else wanted to go or could go. And so one night I was in bed, and before I went to sleep, I said, if there's someone I am to meet on this journey with myofunctional therapy, please put them on my path. So I went to bed. And the next morning, you shouldn't do this, but I pulled Facebook up, and the first thing that came up was this lady who said, hey, I'm thinking about taking Mary Billings' course in October in Cincinnati. Has anybody taken this course? Is there any information? And so I had posted on there sending PM, and I sent her a message and said, hey, Diana gave me this coupon code. I'm going to go. I'm a speech therapist. And I just kind of left it at that. And I thought, man, is this the person that I'm meant to meet? And so, of course it seemed that way. And then a couple of days went by, she never responded. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is not the person, So she did respond and say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, yes, I want to sign up for this course. And I was like, ooh, maybe this is an opportunity to also save some money on a hotel. And so I had said to her, because my CFT training was like a vacation, I was very much like, I would love this to be a vacation as well. I just needed some silence. I just needed to be away. And so, funny enough, I said, I'm just wondering how much of a talker you are, because I feel like I need to be quiet. But if you don't talk too much, I think that maybe we could share a room together. And she was like, I don't think I talk too much, and that's fine. We could share a room. So she booked the room. We talked just occasionally beforehand. It was funny because that first night that we met at a restaurant and we were talking about the things that we do. And I was talking about CFT. I didn't want to go into the energy thing because that's sometimes too much right from the start. You're just meeting somebody, don't want to think they're crazy or don't want them to think that you're crazy. So I went the CFT route, talking about the fascia, and she was like, oh man, she said, it's like chiropractors. Like, they are too woo for me. And I went, oh my gosh, really? Is this how things are going to go? And so it ended up that her and I talked nonstop. We had these emotional roller coasters at the course of me crying, her crying, going back and forth, because she had a lot of emotions tied to her children as well. And so it was really interesting at the training, which was so amazing and beautiful. It was so good. So good. And it laid the foundation of things that, maybe we had learned at some point, but I feel like we really did not. Even some of the things that I had learned in grad school was very much, this stuff is not okay. And which is a complete disservice to our field and to people suffering from OMDs, because this is very real. And yeah, it's kind of wild to me. So anyway, the course itself was amazing. And this person and I was so thankful that she was led on my path, because we totally supported each other in so many different ways. It was like, when I was having a nervous breakdown, she was there to pick me up. When she was going crazy, I was there to pick her up. And we started this beautiful friendship, and I'm so thankful for that. So in the course itself, I learned that I had way more extensive issues than I even was aware of. And so it's interesting because in my practice, one of the things that I talk about a lot is that we cannot heal each other unless we heal ourselves. So like, we can't heal our children unless we heal ourselves. And when we heal ourselves, that trickles down to them. And so this was even evident there, all of the parents who were saying, or all the moms who were saying, my kids have these issues, a lot of times the mom did as well. And so this was just more evidence of this. Like, yes, we want to heal our children. We want them to get better. We want them to have a good life. But hey, we have to look at ourselves as well, because a lot of these issues are actually happening in us. And when we change ourselves, when we change the energy that we're working with, that also changes them. So after this experience with myofunctional therapy, I was very much like, this needs to come to Northwest Ohio, because here we have orthodontic providers who don't believe in this. We have very few speech therapists who are using myofunctional therapy and the basis for it. And so I very much still love CFT and the energy healing. And so for me to, use myofunctional therapy itself in my practice, I feel like is going to be very difficult because I need to keep going to where I'm being led. Now, is it myofunctional therapy? It might be in the future, but then and right now, I'm still struggling with that. And so what I decided to do was like early January, I emailed Mary Billings and said, is there an opportunity where we can bring the course to Northwest Ohio? I could be this provider and take all of these people who are just waiting for more providers in Northwest Ohio, or I could share this information with all of these other therapists that they would just love to know and love to help so many other people. And also, doing what I do, CFT and body work is a really important piece in myofunctional therapy. So if we're working the muscles and the structure, if the fascia is still tight, then we're only getting so far. So when we open up our system, we release our fascia, now things move and work properly and they work better. So, having more myofunctional therapy providers in the area is so important. And then also for me, this is an opportunity where we can work together to improve the overall quality of life for our patients. We're not just hitting one note, we're hitting all of these pieces. Now, like I said, orthodontic, it may be that we still need to source out for that and drive far away. But my hope is that if we have a wave of people who are bringing change to their patients or their clients, and those patients and clients are now advocating over and over for change to happen there, maybe it will. So for me, this is not just about bringing the course here to Northwest Ohio to, make an immediate impact, but this is hopefully making waves in multiple professions to improve the lives of so many people. So that course is going to be July 24th through the 26th, and this is for professionals such as speech therapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, medical doctors, dentists, orthodontists. I think there might have been another one in there, but that we can start changing the landscape, especially here in Northwest Ohio. So that brings us to our first theme. Our first theme is orofacial myofunctional disorders and therapy. And this is really important because this is where I'm at right now. But this is also an area that is very up and coming, especially in the holistic health community. And I know is going to start trickling into Western medicine as well, because the two biggies in myofunctional therapy is airway, so breathing, and swallowing. So those are the two kind of base primary functions of myofunctional therapy is airway. And this is sleeping, this is nasal breathing, this is, this might encompass snoring, sleep apnea, just so many health functions related to breathing. If you, like allergies, if you don't have an open airway, if you're not breathing through your nose, then there's likely going to be more issues that trickle down. So that is super important. And the second piece is swallowing. So one of our primary functions when we're an infant is swallowing. You eat, you're breathing, you eat, you poop, you sleep. That's kind of what you do. And so you think about yourself or your children as infants, how were they feeding? But then later on in life as kids, we're talking about sleep, we're talking about snoring, we did all that, but also how they're swallowing. Are they messy eaters? Are they coughing? Are they clearing their throat? Are they picky eaters? There's so many things there. And then as an adult, even for myself, I had started having problems swallowing. Now, can I do all the exercises that I tell everybody to? Yeah. But now that I'm equipped with this information that, wait a second, it's not just these kind of little exercises that we do. It's actually the anatomy itself. For me, that was an issue. And so we're going to talk about that as well. So even if you know nothing about orofacial myofunctional disorders and therapy, I feel like this is something that you still need to listen to. So we're going to be talking to therapists. We're going to be talking to a dentist, tongue tie release providers. We're going to be talking to a dentist who does some palatal expansion. We're going to go through the journey of tongue tie releases. This is myself and in a cohort of people who are at the training course as well. So that course, I didn't say it before, it's with Function Focus Academy. It's called Make the Connection. And so it's going to be here in Perrysburg, July 24th through the 26th. There are a bunch of things that you need to do online ahead of time because there's so much information that is covered, but it's really, really good information. And as the host of the training, my intention is that we have this really great network of people that we continue to have conversations after the fact. So with the cohort that we had a select group afterward kind of stick together, and we email and text, and it has been really, really helpful for our own healing journeys and the learning. And so I want to create that group as well here, being able to integrate this information into your practice, into your life, and use it going forward, because I feel like this is such good information to have. You know, I didn't even talk about jaw pain, TMJ, dental health. I mean, there's so many things involved in this. So like I said, even if this is not something that's on your radar, I feel like this is very important to learn. So not only for yourself, but for those around you. So thank you for listening to episode 2. Again, the next theme that is going to start next week is orofacial myofunctional disorders and therapy. I have been on a wild ride with all of the things, with mold, with Reiki, with CFT, orthodontics, and now myofunctional therapy, meeting an amazing friend that I love so much, and being able to connect with these beautiful speech therapists who are so kind and caring and want to continue to bring this amazing information to others. So we're going to talk to all of them, and I'm really excited for you guys to listen. So I hope that you enjoyed this Miracle in Time, and I will see you back next week. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Miracle in Time. If you would like to explore a theme or know someone perfect for this podcast, please fill out a form on yourlightllc.com/podcast. If you would like to learn more about my services, you can visit the website at yourlightllc.com. I want you to remember that with all life's ups and downs, you are divinely held and guided throughout your journey. Don't miss out on this miracle in time.